Hello everybody, this is BSJ. I'm going to be talking about my summary for 7.28 update.
Banana slam jam.
So they did get a new hero. Looks like a Agi carry for the most part, maybe like an Agi mid laner. Her abilities are basically a combination of a few other heroes that we've seen. Her Q is like this bouncing coconut that's auto attacks, that's slow. So it's kind of like a Maelstrom combined with a Witch Doctor coconut, but it's more about the damage. And then you have a Shackle combined with Meepo Net, where it's all about the trees, where it shackles them to a tree, but it's AoE. So your first spell does plant a tree, or it can be targeted on a unit. So if there's no trees around, you can combine the Q with the W. Pretty high mana cost, though. And then her third spell is actually a 2-charged wind run, basically, that instead of giving you 100% evasion, gives you phasing through trees and bonus move speed, and then passive evasion. And then her ult is a skill shot that you channel, similar to Power Shot, but it does a bajillion damage. So the longer you channel it, the more damage it does. Definitely interested to try out the hero. Looks fun, to say the least. If I had to guess, she's probably a mid laner. I don't think her Q fits well for a support, but sometimes, new heroes are so broken, maybe they'll just be supports anyways. But I would lean towards mid laner. I'm not sure if she has the stats of a carry, but I'm sure going to try her on that if I ever get the chance. Going to be hard to pick her, at least in high-tier pubs, where she'll get banned or whatever every game. But super excited. Looks fun. Looks kind of like a knockoff of some of the other heroes, but it looks like a nice mashup of abilities, and I look forward to trying her out. So one of the biggest changes of the patch is Aghanim Shards. Every hero in the game has an Aghanim Shard now, which is a 1,400 gold consumable that at the 20-minute mark, you get the ability to purchase. And it either gives you a new ability or upgrades one of your current abilities. So I'm super excited to try some of these out. Most notably, we even have the Clockwork Jetpack one. I really like the Anti-Mage one, which makes it so Counterspell makes an illusion summon and attack somebody like this, where if you get the active, you now basically kill somebody. So like some of them like that are upgrades to certain abilities. Like this upgrades Magnetic Field to bump people out. Lasso can now be used as a save with a 20-second cooldown. It shares the same cooldown, so heroes like Batrider have like different uses potentially. One I really want to try out is Omni Knight, who basically every 6 seconds he gets an attack passive. Where is he at? Every 6 seconds he gets an attack passive that does 150% of his base damage as pure damage, and then he steals 25 plus, excuse me, and he steals that as HP. So I'm thinking carry Omni Knight might actually be able to be a thing, where early game you go like Sanj and Yasha Radiance kind of items. And even though they nerfed Heavenly Grace, they're making it so that Satanic no longer has status resistance. I feel like status resistance abilities in general do go up in value. So I really do like Omni Knight here. And I really want to try him out as a carry. Some other notable ones. Let's see. It's a lot of the heroes that farm really fast that I potentially like. So for Nature's Prophet, his first 2 trees that get destroyed turn into Greater Trance, which basically still block you in. So Quelling Blade after 20 minutes isn't a super hard counter anymore. And he can also sprout his own trees to summon Greater Trance. And it's only 1,400 gold for a hero that farms really fast. Naga gets her old Riptide active back. Like the Monkey King one's really good late game, which makes your cooldown way lower and cast point way lower, so you can jump from tree to tree way faster. Mirana can potentially turn into a carry. I want to try Mirana carry because of the leap buff, giving her 50% crit on every attack, like 150% crit. The Mars Ags, the new Ags, looks really interesting. You basically have a group of warriors in front of you that just attack, and you could toggle it with your normal attacks. So it's every time you use Bulwark that it goes on. They do full damage, which is pretty crazy. The Magnus one's a nice meme. You toss people up and stun them to set up your own skewers. A lot of heroes' Aghanim Scepters, or at least ones they had at one point, got put on their Aghanim Shards. So Lycan, who used to get 2 wolves, now gets 1 wolf. He's one of the heroes I like a lot in the patch because of the fact that his Feral Impulse no longer has a radius. You can now like split push with all of your summons. I definitely want to try him out. In the past, you were kind of limited to always keeping your summons with you or being near your summons, but now your split pushing capabilities are quite higher. And since the wolf is only 1 wolf, but it's got all these bonuses, it's almost as good as 2 wolves. And it only costs 1,400 gold instead of 4,200 gold. So I think this Ag Shard is actually pretty legit. So for instance, Lifestealer has a new ability that replaced Open Wounds. And it's like a combination of Open Wounds and taking away part of the Feast ability. But then his Open Wounds is now his Aghanim Shard ability. So a lot of little changes there. Leshrak's Aghanim Shard is pretty nutty, where it does the Split Earth 3 times in a row on an area every 5 seconds, and it keeps growing, so it's like a very good zoning tool. Oh, I really like the Jug Aghanim Shard, which makes it so when you're spearing or you're spinning during Blade Fury, you attack a nearby enemy once per second. In the past, it's like really lame how he scales, where he can't do any damage during spin, but now that you can actually attack once per second during spin, that's 5 extra attacks if you're spinning on top of somebody, which is a lot of damage mid to late game. Remember, all of these are only purchasable 20 seconds plus. So I'm not going to go over all the Aghanim Shards. You guys can check that out yourself, but I want to talk about some heroes that got majorly nerfed and buffed by this patch, or at least in terms of buffed, heroes that got a bit reworked that I really want to try. So when it comes to nerfs, first and foremost, I think Sven got hit pretty hard. He still becomes the same hero with less damage. They did nerf his God Strength by 10, 20, 30%. And his Stormhammer Ags no longer instantly attacks like it used to. You'd literally get one-shotted instantly. He now has to stun and then land an attack. And then his Ags Shard is now the Dispel level 15 talent. I think that's like a fair compensation, making him spend an extra 1,400 gold for that. And then also Mask of Madness got nerfed. And I think all these little things are going to add up for him, and I think Sven won't be nearly as popular as before. Spectre also got the nerf bat pretty hard. Mana for Dagger in lane significantly increased. Also, the Dagger cooldown significantly increased, and then Dispersion later on significantly worse, and then 10 base attack speed. So I do think, and also Blade Mail got nerfed in terms of cost. So I think Spectre has gotten significantly worse with the patch. PA only received minor nerfs, so I think PA will still be very strong. I do want to try heroes like Slark, who got his level 3 talent, or level 3, his level 3 ultimate buffed. My only issue is that they actually added a lot of evasion and neutral items, as well as heroes like PA I think will still be popular, and MKB got significantly nerfed. So any hero that relies a lot on MKB, I think will be hurt by this, Slark being one of those, because he does have to land his attacks. A hero I'm super excited to try, after we've already talked about all the nerfs, is Terrorblade, who has his Ags has turned into a extra 10 seconds on Metamorphosis whenever you cast the Fear. And the Fear can be used at any time. It either gives you Metamorphosis for 10 seconds, or turns you or keeps you metamorphed for an extra 10 seconds, and they nerfed the fear duration from 3.75 to 2.5. So it's kind of less of a meme and more of, in my opinion, an actual Ags. So his mid to late game could be much more powerful, maybe like 3rd, 4th item Ags. Makes a lot of sense to me. In terms of offlaners that got buffed, I really like Sand King. I think the change to his ult to make it a, let's see, where is he? So many S heroes, holy shit. His ult is now a cast time instead of a channel time, so you can cancel it a bunch of times. And then the Epicenter radius starts at 500 instead of 275. So basically, they made Epicenter not a dogshit ability, and I think Sand King was already a pretty good hero. His other 3 abilities are really powerful, so I'll definitely want to be trying to Sand King in the offlane. Ricky seems really interesting, that you can basically smokescreen during your Tricks of the Trade. I really like that buff a lot. Makes it so you can guaranteed silence people. Razor still seems snore. Let's see. I want to try Phantom Lancer. His Ag Shard at least seems really nice. The Ag seems decent. Want to try that out. They reworked it so that you destroy all of your illusions and quickly create a max army. I'm not sure how good it is, though. PA's is really interesting. It gives her a knife AoE around her, which breaks for 3 seconds. I think this is the most notable part about this. PA tends to kind of lose mana battles sometimes, and the 3 seconds is about the same as her 2.5 second buff from her blink. Or maybe it's only 2 seconds. Either way, that duration that she's manning up on them will will all be covered by this break, which against heroes like Ursa or against heroes like Faceless Void, it could be really nice. The Pangolier roll-up seems really nice. In terms of mid laners, I think Puck is actually super busted. I was checking out Puck's abilities. Her Ag Shard is really good. Can I please scroll up, game? No? Her Ag Shard seems really good. It makes her Waning Rift do extra damage and knock back enemies. So it can break coil. I think that's the insane part about it. And it also reveals enemy units and wards. So I personally think this Aghanim Shard ability is freaking broken. I think Puck is a really good farming hero, so she should be able to have no problem getting it. And they also buffed her landing stage and overall damage with Illusory Orb. So I really like Puck this patch. I think Puck could be certainly busted. The fact that she can break her own coil now, I think is very good. OD got completely reworked. It's TBD on whether or not he's going to be good. So many hero changes. Any heroes that farm fast, even like Snapfire, I really like their chances of having this Aghanim Shard. So for her, she gets any hero that's caught by the close range Q, gets stunned and knocked back, and that sets up really nicely for your cookie. So it kind of like helps you defend yourself. It makes it so you also do extra damage, so you one-shot creep waves with it if you do it point blank. And then you can set up your own cookies. So I think she could be really powerful. They did nerf her regular Ags a bit, though, in terms of the damage. I want to try Tide as well. His Aghanim Shard makes it so he gets 90 damage on Anchor Smash, and he also hits towers with Anchor Smash. So Tide, who previously did no mid to late game tower damage, and also, like, his Anchor Smash is his way of scaling in terms of actual damage output. Seems pretty easy. He farms pretty fast. I almost want to try him carry. Seems pretty interesting because they gave him a way to end the game, and they also gave him, like, he's a good farming hero. So he also ignores evasion. I think Tide carry is going to be something I want to try really badly. Seems very interesting to me. The Underlord Ag Scepter Shard seems really cool. You can cast it on yourself and also heals you. It's mainly these heroes that farm really fast. Ursa seems to be very good again. They buffed his landing stage by a lot. His level 1 Earth Shock is way better, so you can maybe leave at 1 point. Overpower mana cost, as well as his Aghanim Shard ability seems okay. Every time you attack for a 6th Fury Swipe, you get enraged for a second. So that purges all silences, all slows, debuffs, and obviously gives you enrage. Venge is one I am super excited to try. So they gave her back her base attack damage aura instead of her range aura. So I think it makes her more of a carry again, potentially. And they made it so that her Ag Shard is to steal damage with Wave of Tear. So that's pretty crazy. The only problem is she has an issue farming, but I still want to try it out. They made it so her Ags is back to the illusion creation on death. But the illusion now gives you experience. And if your illusion is still dead, or still alive when you respawn, you go to it. So this could potentially backfire in the hyper late game, and you'll have to be a bit careful. I'm not exactly sure how it works with buyback. Kind of interested to see about that. But what the cool thing is if it is a carry, even when you're dead, unless they kill your illusion, which has the same health you do, and cast all of your spells, you will still be able to farm the map. And it is a strong illusion, so it doesn't die to stuff like hexes, which is an interesting note to have. Definitely want to try out Venge. Looks really entertaining, to say the least. The Viper Aghanim Shard seems really interesting. Lowers armor by 1.5 per stack, and it makes it so you can have 7 stacks, so potentially negative 10 armor if they don't purge it. The Visage rework seems really nice. Familiars do a little bit more damage, attack a bit slower, but now your Scepter makes you very mobile. It makes you and your familiars invis, so you can kind of just suddenly jump people. It's like a 45-second cooldown Shadow Blade. Weaver Ag Shard seems really strong. It makes it so as bugs latch and reveal invis heroes. In the past, you would lose your bugs if they went invis. That was one of the main ways to get rid of Weaver bugs. So I think this is a huge buff against like Glimmer Capes or just invis heroes in general. And then it also makes it so that when you attack a target, you will attack other targets that have beetles on them. So maybe helps you clear waves really quickly if you're in a panic situation. In team fights, you'll be doing a little bit of AoE damage. And those bugs are actually really hard to get rid of if you don't have like illusions or fast attack speed. And now that you can't get rid of them with Invis, this ability, I actually think this Aghanim Shard is really nice. So I really like that one a lot. I really like the Aghanim Shard on Witch Doctor as well. It's basically a Puck phase shift on a 70-second cooldown that makes you a Death Ward. So it's kind of cool. As a support, that extra 2 seconds can make a big difference. And it's pretty cheap, so maybe like mid to late game you get one. Wraith King has been turned into a cooldown crit base, so his laning stage will be better, but his vampiric aura is no longer an aura. So I don't really know what to think of Wraith King. I want to try him because his laning stage is probably stronger, but I don't really know what they wanted to do with him. They did buff Armlet, though. So, with that in mind, we got some new items. Fluffy Hat and Orb of Corrosion seem like some nice early game items. You can see the descriptions here. Falcon Blade seems a bit weird because it seems like a nice item early, but it doesn't build into anything, and it's a little expensive for like a slot filler. It's about the same price as the old Aquila, and I think it's like kind of strictly worse. So I don't know what heroes would actually want this. Witchblade seems kind of mediocre as well. I'm thinking about intelligence heroes that would benefit from this. It does your damage as int for 3 seconds on a 9-second cooldown. So maybe like a Queen of Pain, maybe like a Puck, but a lot of these heroes usually want an item that makes them survivable, and this only gives you really 6 armor towards that. They made an upgrade of Maelstrom and Rod of Atos. I was thinking about heroes that want to attack and also buy an Atos, and I really couldn't think of any. I think this item's a meme, but I may be wrong. I think it's just too expensive, and it doesn't actually give you any attack speed. Unlike Mjolnir, it just doesn't really synergize with that extra like attack proc and everything. The mana cost is also 200, which is a shit ton for any right-clicker. Mage Slayer seems nice in theory. It gives negative 35% spell amp on any hero you're attacking, but look at the stats. It's like, I think it's only specifically good against like Invoker if you're going on him, against Zeus. Heroes that like are going to hit you with spells while you're hitting them. But I don't really know. Like, I think it's more of a counter of those heroes' items rather than like a standard item on any hero. Eternal Shroud seems interesting, but it's an expensive 1100 gold recipe that all it really does is combine these two items so that when you take the magic damage from a hood, it converts it to mana. So it makes it so you may not have mana problems anymore. It also gives you, obviously, the hero spell Lifesteal, but I'm not really sure how I feel about it. Maybe a hero like Sand King, it could be really good. It's like a greedy version of a pipe. I'm not really sure, though, if offlaners want to buy like a greedy version of a pipe. The new blinks are kind of cool, but I think for the most part, you can see the descriptions here. I think they're mainly a meme. They're like 6,800 gold, so it's like a super late game item that you have a blink dagger and you have nothing else to buy with it. They do upgrade your blink dagger significantly, but I think these 3 items, as well as Wind Waker and probably the Gleipnir, are pretty much all items you only buy when you have like an Atos in your 5 slotted, or you have a Maelstrom in your 5 or 6 slotted, or you have a Blink in your 5 or 6 slotted, or you have a Yules in your 5 or 6 slotted. They're nice in theory, but man, they are super expensive, and none of them really get super upgraded for like farming or anything like that, or like survivability. Like Wind Waker is literally a Yules you can also use on your teammates and move yourself a bit. So it's like, is that worth 4,400 extra gold compared to a Yules? Unless you just have no slots. So I think these are all just slot fillers. They reworked these a bit, so Octarine Core now has no lifesteal, but it has an Ether Lens. while Bloodstone, neither of which give magic resistance, but Bloodstone is now spell lifesteal. So kind of just reworked the way these items work. Silver Edge now only has an Oblivion Staff. It's 500 gold cheaper with 12 less strength. So it's 12 less strength, more mana regen, 500 gold cheaper, guys. Cooldown also significantly lower. So if any hero doesn't need the 12 strength, it's a strict buff to the item. Ring of Tarrasque got removed. I think Heart of Tarrasque is still garbage. We'll kind of have to see. Holy Locket! Highlight of the patch, guys. Now automatically gains a charge every 15 seconds. Is it good? We'll just have to see. They've buffed this item so many times, I think it's actually potentially good. You're basically getting 1 health and mana per second, but you can use it whenever you want. So that's kind of cool. And then it's also giving an aura to your team rather than stealing it all for yourself. Satanic no longer giving status resistance. Mentioned it earlier. Big nerf to the items late game. I think it's a big buff to heroes. Even like Earthshaker that got heavily countered by late game status resistance carries. So pretty much it just nerfs all the heroes that relied on Satanic status resistance and buffed all the ones that were really crippled by the late game status resistance. On the other hand, they made it so all the Sanjas can't stack status resistance, but on Kaya Sanj and Sanjiasha, the 2 items that were underwhelming, they buffed the status resistance, and then they nerfed the status resistance on Halberd. So they've definitely reworked the way status resistance works in the game. I have Scotty nerfed slightly. Drums reworked to more of a support item. No agility anymore, so I'd say it's pretty much done for agility heroes. But it's a 1,700 gold item with 8 charges. So 8 charges is a lot. 550 gold recipe can replenish those charges, so the recipe is even more value. I think heroes like Bounty Hunter, like utility supports, or maybe even cores, like Bounty Hunter doesn't seem like the best core, but like anything that just wants to keep skirmishing, willing to pay the 550 gold, I think sounds really cool. Mask of Madness slightly nerfed. Abyssal makes it so you can no longer overwhelm active into a bash. Blade Mail reduced, cost increased. Glimmer no longer gives attack speed. I think all of these item changes are great. Necronomicon, which was never bought, is now lower cooldown. Javelin is now a little bit more. 1 more damage per hit on average. 1 more damage. Huge buff there. Monkey King Bar. Significant nerf. They made it so this is actually 22 damage on average per hit. And so it's 25 damage approximately per hit. It now no longer lifesteals, so the synergy with Mask of Madness is much worse, which I think makes Faceless Void, the combination of these 2 items. It's like 35 damage lost on every attack if he goes Mask of Madness MKB, and then it's also an extra 125 gold, and he also is not lifestealing from that, like, it would be 49 damage from the Monkey King Bar proc. So, very interesting there, but significant nerfs to him. All the items that were slightly over-purchased got nerfed like this. Maelstrom got buffed by 28% extra procs. You have 5% extra, which is a lot. Desolator nerfed. Divine Rapier nerfed. Armlet buffed. Hood slightly reworked, but Pipe... Dude, Pipe, man. They don't want you to be a selfless offlaner, guys. They are promoting the frickin' swap from Pipe of Insight to the Eternal Shroud, excuse me. So they're definitely trying to make you play more selfishly, because you get that hood and you no longer want to pay that massive recipe cost for Pipe. Aura on Vlad's is now armor again, but it costs a bit more. Mechanism no longer gives armor, but now Guardian Griefs do. Quelling Blade nerf, again nerfing melee heroes. I really want to try some ranged carries. I think like Weaver Venge could be huge because of this. Like these little things add up a lot, guys. Ring of Regen got nerfed, Sage's Mask got buffed, Enchanted Mango got slightly nerfed. All these are going to drastically affect our starting items and how we spend our 600 gold. And then, like, Yule's got nerfed. Radiance affects Ancients now. Refresher Orb drastically buffed. Dagon's back to where it was, still in the dumpster probably. And that's it for the main items patch. I would say the items of the patch for me... It's going to be a lot about Battle Fury. It's going to be a lot about Maelstrom, I think, again, because of the evasion buffs and the nerf to MKB. I think Maelstrom may go up significantly in value. I'm going to try out some heroes that previously would have maybe considered a Maelstrom. And then overall, the heroes that relied on Satanic, I think, are going to be much worse. Heroes that were reliant on MKB are much worse. Those are really the main impacts for me. Glimmer Cape being an important nerf on support items. That item's overbought anyways. We've got some new neutral items. Check them out for yourselves. The tier 1s seem okay. They're right here. Kind of just have to wait to see those. Rip to these 3 items. GG. Tier 2 items. This one seems really cool. Makes it so you basically get 10% movement speed and 25 attack speed every time one of your abilities is on cooldown. Bullwhip is a shitty version of the Clumsy Net, so they removed the Clumsy Net as well as Vampire Fangs. I'm kind of glad they removed this. This was like an item that either you super wanted or super didn't want, and it kind of like you regretted buying a Morbid Mask if you got one, but yet some heroes like need the lifesteal, so it's kind of annoying. I really like the Elven Tunic. This is like a miniature Radiance for you, which is kind of cool, but it's a really small AoE, so it's more about the farm, I think. This is more of a support item. This is a very interesting item. It's like a get off me kind of item, so it's like a backline support intelligence hero kind of item, which is really nice. Removed Repair Kit, Craggy, and Greater Fairy Fire. I don't think anybody's going to really miss those. Telescope is moved to tier 4. Quickening Charm slightly nerfed. This is the first carry item other than Leveler in the late game items, which I like a lot. It's like the old S&Y proc with a damage and melee attack range. This is Leshrax's Ags. I don't think it's a very good tier 4, but this is probably a purge, so it's probably like a good defensive item for that at least. And then Trickster Cloak seems interesting, more of like a strength hero item, I think. It makes you invisible for 6 seconds, and it also gives you like evasion and magic resistance, which I think are mainly nice on strength heroes. Removal of these 4 items. F's, please, for Havoc Hammer specifically. Got some cool new tier 5 items. We had some fun with the model size already. The Book of Shadows seems mediocre, but the vision is nice at night, and it basically makes you Willow, but you can't attack or cast spells. So it's like a save for yourself or an enemy that you're trying to stall, or an ally that you're also trying to save, and it applies at basic Dispel. They got rid of Trident and Woodland Striders, gave a few buffs, most notably Force Boots can be used on other people. I think that's really cool. And Seer Stone also reveals an area on the map, so like scouting out Roche can be pretty insane at this stage in the game. I think Seer Stone is now one of the best items with this. So most notably, there's very few general changes. Very few. They reduced the power of neutral creeps just a bit. They made it so the game starts at nighttime, so when it comes to before this 0-minute mark, heroes like Night Stalker, Bane got his night vision increased. Any of these heroes that scout out go up in value for the early game. That actually matters a lot in competitive, where you're trying to get wards down and all that kind of shenanigans to set up the laning stage. And then in terms of the map itself, it's the exact same, so at least Ice Frog didn't feel like overwhelming us too much. But then neutral creeps, they made the Ancient Thunderhides a lot stronger. But now they take more magic damage, so heroes with just magic damage are able to much more easily clear Ancients. And so my goal is all the heroes I mentioned about trying, but I'm really looking to try out some new item builds. I think the main changes this patch are the items. Even though some of the heroes like Sven and Spectre got nerfed, I think the majority of the changes are going to come from the items and some of the new Ag Shard upgrades that really alleviate some of the problems that heroes had. I think a great example is Weaver. The bug's now not going out of Invis and makes it so his like slot issues of carrying detection and damage issues because he can't keep the bugs on them are drastically improved. But then there's other heroes where the Ag Shard's like kind of okay, but they didn't really need it. So I think heroes that got drastically buffed by the Ag Shards at 20 minutes plus are going to make us like a huge splash in the meta, but I also think the fact that all these nerfs to melee carries and satanic buyers, heroes with innate sustain, heroes with innate survivability, and the need to not buy a satanic, I think will also go up in value. So I'm really going to try Terrorblade, Weaver, Venge. I also want to try Mirana carry because of the Ag Shard. And then I also want to try, in the off lane, Sand King. I want to try Mars with Ags, maybe Mars mid with Ags. In the mid lane, I think Puck's going to be the best hero, just to reemphasize that again. So this is my update for 7.28. This is my summary. I will be releasing as much content as I possibly can about the new patch as I run into new broken heroes, broken strategies, or just basic different ways to think about the game in case some of them came up. It seems like the map's the exact same, so the way to play the map should not change. It's more so just about figuring out the optimal strategy to cater to the overall balances of the items and the new Ag Shard abilities. So I'm looking forward to playing the patch. Hope you guys are too. Make sure you tune in to the rest of the content to see what I have to say about this patch. Let's go ahead and queue up a pub.